WNST, Taos in Baltimore, and WNST.net. We have been shoveling out here this week. It's hard to believe that spring training will be around the corner, but also free agency and the draft. And this guy has moved very deftly through all parts of Baltimore sports. He's one of my mentors from the Baltimore Sun many, many years ago, as well as a longtime columnist there. He now does his work over at Ravens.com, talking all things football, and he's in the midst of beginning the long drudgery of releasing a book this summer on all things baseball. Streaks, he's a baseball fan, but he's a Ravens man right now. We welcome John Eisenberg back onto the program. Follow his journey out on Twitter at @BMoreEisenberg, and thawing out and shoveling out and doing all that stuff. You know, Ravens had a pretty decent week here, right, to start free agency. I don't know that anybody's doing heel clicks in the hallways out at one winning drive, John, but you know, so far so good. I like them better with Brandon Williams than without, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what they've done primarily is there were a lot of questions about who was going to be retained and who wasn't, and that they've really answered that. I mean, thumbs up or thumbs down. They've retained a lot of key guys. Brandon Williams, as you mentioned. The guys that they've let go are not surprising. Elvis Dumerville or Darius Webb. You know, they've really added two guys: safety Tony Jefferson and Danny Woodhead, the running back, and certainly those two. And I'm pretty excited about the Jefferson one. I mean, that's I think that's a real strong signing. And what I like the most about that one, he's 25 years old. How often do you get that at free agency? You know, and Ozzie Newsome mentioned that in his press conference. He's an ascending player. I just love that signing for that reason as much as anything. Not only is he strong, a good safety, he's going to help the back end, but he's young. So they're going to get his prime years. Woodhead, you're not getting his prime years. He's 32. He's coming off a knee injury. We'll see how that works, but the Ravens gave him some money, a little more than I thought, so they obviously believe that he's healthy and can be a third down guy and move the chains and a playmaker, so we'll see where that goes.
Well, how fluid all of this is, right? And in January, you know, I was meeting with some key members of the organization and talking about some things, and the Zach Orr thing came to my attention at that point before it became public knowledge. And, you know, this is how fluid it has to be, right? Because maybe Rick Wagner is the guy you wind up investing in because someone just comes and give Brandon Williams $100 million, you know, because that could have happened last week. The Browns could have come in and said, we really want him. We're going to take him. We're going to give him so much money that he's going to come to Cleveland or try like hell, because there are teams out there with that kind of money. I mean, the Browns took on a second-round draft pick for taking a contract. John, we may never see that again in the history of sports, right?
No, that was a crazy thing. That was impressive. I'm kind of interested in what the Browns are doing. Everybody makes fun of the Browns with reason. They really are doing some interesting things. I think they'll probably move Osweiler before the season begins, and you know, they've accumulated just a ton of draft picks, and now let's see if they can turn those into players. But you know, they do have an interesting thing going on in Cleveland. You know, they're a few years away still, but I'm kind of curious to see how that's going. But yeah, it's certainly fluid for the Ravens. It's ongoing. You know, you got a pretty good idea how it's all going to work out. And, you know, with a lot of these free agents, I mean, Rick Wagner, they had a pretty good idea. He was going to make more money than they wanted to pay, $9.5 million a year for a right tackle. I'd say, you know, good luck to you, big fella, and we'll try to find somebody else who can do that cheaper. That's salary cap 101.
Well, Kelechi, look, last year they didn't want to lose him. They would have far preferred to come in at $9 million and keep him than to have $12 million and him go. But I don't think they really believed they were going to win Brandon Williams, right? I mean, my vibe was they were going to try real hard. They were going to put everything they had into it. But I had a feeling someone else was going to find him more attractive, who had more cap room. I think they believed Kyle Juszczyk was going to be around, that no one was going to give him stupid money. And here come the 49ers. So, I mean, being predictive of it ahead of time, you can do it, I can do it, but even Ozzie and Eric can be predictive, and Pat Moriarty, and it still could work out differently than the way it does. And again, you know, one thing leading to another. The Woodhead signing, to me, is a reaction to the Ken Dixon suspension, because he's not going to be there in September, and they need to have an is, not a might be.
I'm not sure about that one. I mean, the reason why, in terms of being a reaction, is that they gave him decent money. it's more money than I thought. I mean, that they've invested in him. It's not just we need a Band-Aid because he's going to miss the first 4 games of the season. I think they think he's going to be around. I mean, it's a 3-year deal. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but there's some guaranteed money. It's not 1 year, $2 million is what I'm saying. So
it's not a flyer. I would agree with that.
It is not. So it's like, okay, well, they think he's part of the architecture, and so that's what he will now be. And if he stays healthy at 32, it's not going to matter that he's 32. If he stays healthy, he will be good. He got hurt last year, so let's see. But I'm not sure what they're doing at running back exactly. I mean, they said they wanted to. I kind of like Ken Dixon and Terrence West, and I thought coming out of last year, that's not necessarily a position they needed to address. But, they also have Buck Allen running around, Taliaferro, has barely played. But yet they felt they needed to add somebody, and they said they wanted to add a speed guy, but they didn't add a speed guy. So I'm not sure what's going on there exactly, but they have a lot of running backs. I don't know that you really need to address that much more from here. The receiver is a different story.
He is John Eisenberg, B. More Eisenberg, out on Twitter as well as at Ravens.com. His book is coming out in July on baseball streaks and longevity and storytelling as usual. You mentioned Jefferson, and you go on, praising him and saying it's a great signing at 25. This is how I've likened it, John. I mean, Elam was such an incredible bust. Obviously Brooks was a bust. Had one of those guys emerged and been that guy, this would have been the time to pay that guy, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The money that they would have given Matt Elam had he panned out would have been this money. So it is convenient to wash Matt Elam out and say, you know what, from a cap perspective, he's gone, he's done with. Now let's give this guy his money. And the Cardinals didn't want to lose him. This was one of the benefits of the backside of the Matt Elam thing, because if this guy comes in and plays at some semblance of a Pro Bowl level or a superior level, then they would have really done themselves well here in the future and, fixing a wrong and making it a right.
Well, it's a subtraction and addition, right? I mean, yes. I mean, they've swung and missed at quite a few linebackers. Let's just take that position. Between, Sergio Kindle, Arthur Brown, Correa, the second-round pick last year, didn't play as a rookie. But yet, those are guys that you would hope to be paying with that second contract. Hasn't happened, but yet, last year, Zach Orr, an undrafted guy, comes in and is the leading tackler on the team, would have been paid if he had this freak injury and had to retire. So, you can swing and miss with your high pick. If you can find someone one way or another, then you can still get the player that you need in that position. Sometimes you have to pay a premium for it. But, that's what the Ravens did. That 2013 draft, the top 2 picks are busts, complete busts. But and I actually wrote a column about this. But look at what happened below that. I believe it was over $100 million in contracts handed out to 4 guys from that draft, 3rd through the 5th round last week. So that's not a bust. I mean, those are guys. I mean, only one of them's going to play for the Ravens, but the talent judgment was correct. So it's you got to play it out on these things, and one way or another, you got to find the player. And so the Ravens have been pretty good at that, even when they swing and miss with the high picks. They'll find that Zach Orr, or they'll find somebody to step in.
John, this middle part of the first round feels to be ripe with defensive prospects at the pass rusher position, in the secondary. People believe there's some linebackers there as well, interior linebackers. Some thoughts for you. What do you think right now is their biggest need? And I don't think they're done in free agency between now and then. But, for me, I want to see them draft a DB, and I want to see them draft a DB that's going to get on the field for the next 5 years, because I think their situation with Jimmy Smith is a little bit perilous with health. And when it's your feet, and when it's that position, and when it's been feeling like it's more chronic, I feel like, you can't live without that, and you can't go out on the market and buy that.
I couldn't agree more, and I've actually written that repeatedly ad nauseum almost, that I feel like, yes, defensive back. There's no doubt also pass rusher. They need the next generation of pass rusher. They've got a couple of people that they've brought along or bringing along, and it's not quite sure how all that will work out, and it would be great to get a marquee guy. But I will say that just for all those reasons you mentioned, I think cornerback in particular, they just have to do it. They've been undermanned there for too long. I mean, the season really hung in the balance last year, and it's been the case for a while. If Jimmy Smith goes down there in trouble, I mean, you just can't have that. You have to have more depth, a lot more depth. So, I see a first-round draft pick. I would love it, a cornerback. And I think a veteran in free agency as well. They're kicking the tires on a couple of guys, and, that could easily happen. So I do think they're going to invest and maybe try to stock up a little bit. They got Tavon Young from last year. I think he profiles as a pretty good slot guy, nickel guy. So I think they actually have a piece there. But they need that starter, that edge guy, and, I would love to see it be a draft pick.
Wide receiver, John Eisenberg, what say you on this one? Maybe waiting for veterans to come along, and I know, people around here all worked up about Anquan Bolden. Last week it was Torrey Smith. We like the guys we used to have. Look, Brandon Cooks is going to be running around for the Patriots this year. I mean, God bless them. They sort of won the week of free agency for me because they were the best team coming into it.
Yeah, work to be done there for sure. I mean, it certainly appears that, I think it was a good move, number one, to have Mike Wallace instead of Torrey Smith. I love Torrey. I will take Wallace over him. Wallace was productive last year. He has pretty good chemistry with Joe Flacco, over 1,000 yards receiving. Didn't have a ton of touchdowns, but a lot of speed. The speed is still burning. And, some mid-range routes. I mean, I like Wallace. I say keep Mike Wallace. Much better year last year. There's all these analytics out there, these metrics, and, Torrey doesn't always come up so great in those. And so I like keeping Wallace. Right now you've got Wallace and Perryman as your starters. That's a little shaky. I mean, Perryman didn't look like he was ready to be a starting receiver last year. They're counting on him to step forward.
They believe in him more than maybe you and I do, right? Probably.
Yeah.
They're still all in on him.
Well, they have to be. And, he's their guy, and he has to be a playmaker. He has to become a playmaker for this offense. I mean, it's a first-round draft pick, and he's got all the tools, and they just have to make it work. They definitely need somebody else in that mix, and I'm not talking about Kamar Aiken. I'm talking about somebody else. I mean, the one that I think got away a little bit is Terrell Pryor. I really like that as a possible fit here, a real electric playmaker. Again, a young guy. He's only 27. And he only signed a 1 year, $8 million with the Redskins. I mean, that seems doable. But whatever, it didn't happen. He went with Washington. And so that's one that got away. And so as a result, you're looking for playmakers still out there. And so, none of the veterans just knock me out. It may be something where you got to spend a draft pick, pretty high up, second round. But, there's only so many draft picks to go around. So we'll see, but there's definitely work to be done at receiver.
John, you said the R word, Redskins, so I've had a lot of fun this week, by the way. People were saying, why are you talking about the Redskins so much? Because it's delicious, that's why. It tastes good. It's like, you and I have covered dysfunction here out of the warehouse and the stench of poor ownership and poor treatment of people in that space. It really is very mirror image, except that the Orioles have managed now that guys like you that, did the journalism up on Calvert Street aren't doing it anymore. There aren't a whole lot of questions asked when Dan Duquette wants out. But down in D.C., everybody wanted out. The coordinator wanted out. Quarterback wanted out. He's changed staffs there like socks. Gruden feels like he's entrenched there now. But boy, the McLuhan thing last week certainly has the media up in arms and certainly has their season ticket holders up in arms.
Yeah, it's ugly. It is really ugly. And listen, I'm not around the Redskins, so I don't know the details of some of the reporting and, how the story about McLuhan and, all that came about. And I don't know a lot of the gory details, but it just came off so ugly. And, I think, listen, I have some Redskin fans in my family, and they are disgusted. They are fed up. And
isn't it great?
I mean, as bad as it gets, as low as it's been.
Well, you grew up a Cowboys guy, right? Back, when as a kid, right? So,
Yep.
You're very familiar with that part of the rivalry. And then you came up here, and you had to cover the Redskins because we lost our football team when you got here. So, I mean, you've been around this, and they're so large as an entity in D.C. I mean, I'm a Caps guy. I'm a Wizards guy. We see the Nationals. The Redskins just move and shake everything in that community, even when things are going well. I was shocked at how crazy the fan base could be this time of the year down there, especially when they, as Boswell wrote, they have other things they could look at right now, right? I mean, the Caps and the Wizards are interesting.
I like the Boswell column a lot, saying, maybe it's time just to go to another team, because listen, I think he's got the finger on the pulse there of a lot of people. And so, it's an interesting time down there. Of course, as you mentioned, I mean, they're so huge. People just have no concept of it. It's just, in terms of the market size, the fan base, the Ravens can't compare. They can't compare with that stuff. It's just they're not in that big of a market. They haven't been around long enough. They may be a better franchise, but golly, I mean, the Redskins are a massive entity. And so there's just so much there. And you at this point, it just feels like this sort of massive behemoth that people, certainly the people that I know that are fans of the Redskins are just, I've never seen them so disgusted, just because it's been one thing after another. So I don't know how they get out of it. I mean, what winning makes everybody really happy. The team on the field wasn't that bad. McLuhan was good. He was pretty good at putting a team together. So the team has not been that bad. But it'll be forgotten if they win.
Winning deodorizes, right? It's the great deodorizer. I mean, that's what we have with the Orioles. They've won the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Buck and Duquette have come in, and Machado and Adam Jones and some good baseball players, Chris Davis. And, to me, McPhail did a lot of the deodorizing. He's gone now, right? But, what's left in the winning part of it really falls on to Buck and Dan Duquette and McPhail that has made Peter Angelos almost look competent. I mean, literally, right? I mean, until you see that you're paying for a television network and none of their spring training games are on, and then you scratch your head and you say, well, they don't really know what they're doing. They're just sort of the blind squirrel finding the Kirk Cousins and I think in the case of Dan Snyder, they've won down there, so that's made him not such a bad guy the last 5 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to intellectualize it too much, honestly, and there's enough weird stuff going on in our world.
Oh, no doubt.
So
I'm trying to deodorize Washington every time I visit.
Right. So I think it's like, give me my sports team, and I'm not going to over intellectualize it here. Are they winning or not? And
if you're a Redskin fan, you're like, bad enough the government screwed up. Can't my football team just keep a GM?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is they don't want to over intellectualize their sports, especially in an era like this. However, so if they win, great, then that just kind of cures all. But easier said than done. I mean, it's a tough league. They're in a tough division. Dallas looks like they're good. And so, they got a tough situation there.
He is John Eisenberg. Be more Eisenberg. You can follow his journey out at BaltimoreRavens.com as well as out on Twitter, opining about all things. Here's where we go sort of off into the sticks here, Eisenberg, because I know you got a baseball book coming out. You've done horse racing books and all this stuff. But I know baseball is a great love of yours as well as your family and your son, and you go to ball games. This Chris Tillman thing, it's demoralizing, right? Like, if you were down at spring training doing the 5 columns a week routine like you were in 1997, and people really cared about the baseball team, and there was sort of activity, and people were glued to it. This is a bad mojo rising going into opening day to not have Chris Tillman and to be looking over at Gosman and Bundy's to me, who are still might be's. They're not is's. They're might be's. This is not a good way to come north with the pitching.
It is not. I feel pretty good about Gosman and Bundy. They look pretty good. Gosman in particular, he's got a few years on his tread on the tires. He's pitched a little bit. He looks like he's getting ready to take off.
Hold on for a second. Give me your expectations. Gosman this year, wins, losses, ERA, innings. So
I think Gosman could be a 16-game winner this year.
Okay, fair enough.
Bundy, I would say 13. I think that's possible. I'm not going to just go overboard. I mean, it will be his first full year. And so, again, with Bundy, I mean, terrific stuff, obviously, great composure, and let's just hope he stays healthy. So, there's that. I'm not a huge fan of, Wade Miley and Ubaldo and those guys. I don't see it.
I see Wright and Wilson up here Memorial Day because one of those guys is going to flame horrifically. I mean, one of those guys is going to take the ball every fifth day, really piss Buck off, be into the bullpen in the fourth inning, have a 6.5 ERA, and it's just going to be like by May 15th, you're going to be searching for an answer. I mean, I feel like I've seen the script, and that's the part that bothers me. And with I agree with you with Bundy and Gausman. I think certainly capable of 16, 13 wins, ERAs, 3.5, wherever it is. But then what happens? In order for them to win 90 games, more than that has to happen now, right? Now there's no Tillman. That has to happen for them to have any chance.
It does have to happen, and yeah, I mean, and I don't have tremendous faith in Wright or any of these other guys that they have bringing up. I mean, I'm kind of interested in some of these young guys, Chris Lee. I'm kind of interested to see maybe some of these guys percolating a little bit in the minors that we haven't seen up here so far with some good arms.
Bring me some guys that haven't failed yet.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. So I don't know, but to get back to the original point, I mean, missing Tillman, I mean, that hurts. They just don't have those wins and innings easily replaced. So, it's a big one. It is not a good thing. I mean, I think the bullpen is fine. I think they're going to hit a lot of home runs. I think their defense is good. I wish they had a little bit more OBP, but generally speaking, I think it's pretty much, it'll be what we've seen the last few years. But, the starting pitching, the loss of Tillman, and I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to have some ups and downs with that. I don't know that we're looking at surgery. I think we're going to have some, he feels better. He feels worse. And, we'll see. If he's healthy by June, I think it's a victory. And, pitching by June, I think that could be a key to the Orioles really getting it going.
Yeah, when I hear those two words, James Andrews, that's when I'm, like, whoo, I don't, that's not
it's
good
an
news.
alarm.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He is John Eisenberg. He'll be watching baseball, watching the Terps this weekend, watching football, doing it all at B. Moore Eisenberg out on Twitter as well as at BaltimoreRavens.com. Tell me about the book, John. I mean, because you sent me some very cryptic text last week about an advanced copy for me and all that, and I do appreciate that because I actually dropped Purple Rain 2 into your door, on vacation. So, I'm waiting for the book to come, but I know you've been working long and hard on this thing.
Yes, it's my own version of the Iron Man streak. It took me about 4 years to finish it, but it is finished, and I do have a book coming out. It'll be out in July. It's called The Streak. It's not just about Ripken. It's about Cal and Lou Gehrig and the history of the consecutive game streak. It's really an examination of it because I woke up one day and I thought, what did I know from all my years of journalism? Certainly I was there for all that streak stuff, and it's such a strange record, and I observed it and I thought, it's a record where if you hit a bunch of home runs or steal a bunch of bases or whatever, everyone just applauds and say, great job. If you played a million games in a row, everybody still applauds. Goodness knows there was applause here, but there's just as many people saying, okay, that's great, but why did you do that? And is it a good idea? And so I just thought, I'm going to examine this record. It's just the strangest, it's like the crazy uncle of records. And where did it come from? And just sort of where it all started and how we got here. And so it's about Ripken, it's about Gehrig, it's about the streak. Cal participated in the book and answered a lot of questions and asked some questions. And I think people will enjoy it.
I am looking forward to it immensely. I know how hard you've been working. I mean, dude, Bruce Springsteen got the river out in 2.5 years. You know what I mean? So.
Well, having a full-time job at the Ravens has definitely slowed the percolating on this baseball book. But by golly, it is here.
Hey, enjoy the columns always out at BaltimoreRavens.com. We'll be following on Twitter and watching some basketball. I know you'll be doing that this weekend as well. Be well, John. Thanks for coming on, pal.
Sure thing.
Here he is, John Eisenberg, B. Moore Eisenberg, out on Twitter as well as at BaltimoreRavens.com and out on the book world. And you can go buy his books on Amazon and buy it through our GiveASpit.com app and help our friends at There Goes My Hero. By the way, head coach Barry Trotz joining us on Monday from the Washington Capitals. Come on out, rock your red at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. It's going to be a big night, big conversation, lots to talk about, and certainly with the missteps last week in California, hopefully I get a happy version of Coach Trotz on Monday after a better week at home here as the Caps get back from a little bit of a gnarly California trip there. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I'm wearing my fantastic Major League Baseball Geddy Lee shirt because, you know, I like Geddy Lee, I like Russian, I like Major League Baseball, as well as the World Baseball Classic this weekend. We got the bracketology and March Madness going on, as well as the Caps and the Terps and the Wizards. Whew, it's busy around here, let me tell you that. Last but never least, if there is any breaking news, especially on the Ravens side with free agency or spring training stuff out of Sarasota, you get it first on the WNST Tech Service. That is all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis is here this Thursday, every Thursday, driving you home with the SSV on WNST. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.